Good morning, honorable members. This House is now in session. When the suspension was taken last evening, you won Government Business Order number 1, and with that we shall continue. Yes, the honourable member for St. Philip North.
Speaker, sir, I rise to enter this debate. And first, I want to thank the good people of St. Philip North for giving me this opportunity to speak in this debate. And of course, this is the final estimates before that appointed time. And I want to extend, of course, my gratitude to them for giving this opportunity. Also, it would be remiss of me, Mr. Speaker, I also want to express my condolences to the Ennis family, my colleague, the member for St. James South, his brother Roger Ennis, my constituent, also the Gibson and the sergeants and the marshal's family. They too, they are in mourning. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, now that I have gone that out the way, first I want to congratulate the Minister of Finance, of course, for his sterling work, sterling job, and his sticking to the plan of basically creating an own homegrown economic recovery plan, and indeed ensuring that the standard of living of Barbadians are maintained to the standard that they're accustomed to. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, that comes against a background of an opposition based on everything we do. In fact, based on their pronouncements that by now, the economy will have collapsed, we will be in tatters, and there will be tremendous suffering by the population. All of our social services will be, at this time, not to the acceptable level. And of course, all the marching, all the posturing have not resulted in anything, particularly in their quest for power. But indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, the member of St. George South yesterday, I'm not picking on him, but I recall he said that this Barbados Sustainable Recovery Plan will go to file 13. And I remember, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the modus of the Barbados Labour Party is that with every particular issue that confronted them when they were in power, we had numerous documents. We had the Law and Order report when there was an issue in crime. We had even promises coming out of the Ford Commission on constitutional review, even the Cox Commission, particularly relating to the 1974 constitutional amendments, and nothing came out. None of the recommendations entered into by civil society and all professionals. Those files now remain in file 13. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, even when we go about and we implement policies relative to assisting the poor and the working class and insisting those out there to own a piece of the rock, we are lambasted that this is an election gimmick, that when the Minister of Housing announced a couple of weeks ago in this House Assembly that tenants who live in units 20 years or more will receive their conveyances because of the vesting that happened and because of the requirements under the Free Terrace and Transfer Terrace Act. Those requirements are now being fulfilled, that he's in a position now to convey these units via land-based. And it's basically a continuation of the program, Mr. Speaker. It's a continuation of the program because we started in 2008 issuing letters and saying to them, look, once you live 20 years or more, you are entitled to own this unit. And we started and we gave out conveyances. It's not something that now come out the sky, is a continuation of the program, and Minister Kelvin should be applauded for that. Speaker, sir, the member for the city yesterday questioned, he accepted, yes, he believed that every Bajan should have a piece of the rock or own a piece of this rock. And he said that he wants to know what will become of the common areas, what will become of this, and particularly who will be responsible for the sewage, whether it's the tenant or whether it's National Housing Corporation. I recall, Mr. Speaker, that when the whole issue about the sale of terrace units came about, the issue was that the maintenance costs of these units were extremely costly to NHC, and that by divesting the units would also impact positively on National Housing Corporation in terms of its expenditure. So, sometime in 2004, National Housing Corporation went about their own program under the Barbados Labour Party. And it was very, 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 very different from our policy, Mr. Speaker. In fact, I read in a document here from NHC, dated April 30th, 2004. You know, how this, in fact, it was packaged very, very, very nicely. In fact, they started off with, congratulations, you are now a homeowner. This is 2014. This is units in Bottom Close, Wildy. Your unit is valued at $73,000. But you are entitled to below concessions, which will reduce the cost of your unit to approximately $42,000, Mr. Speaker. But $42,000 for someone who basically cannot afford to get a loan, doesn't have the security to get a loan, doesn't have other persons in the house living to assist them in getting the loan, this really was a travesty of justice. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, to answer the member for the city in relation to the sewage, in the paragraph of the document, they said, the maintenance is intended to cover minor repairs. The corporation will continue to maintain the sewage system for the first 5 years after sale. But after that, then you have to deal with that. All is at you. All is at you. But that's not all, Mr. Speaker. No. The first paragraph said that the unit is being sold at $42,000. Then later on, the purchase price of the land was $2,500, which carried the price to $44,695, sir. And then a deposit, of course, the normal 10% deposit of $4,000, and if you don't pay it within a certain time, of course, you will get penalties. And so that was their policy, basically, as outlined in this document here, which is a document that cannot be disputed, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I just want to draw that to the member for the city, that we are extremely different in terms of persons who are seeking to own a piece of the rock, and that we have now removed that travesty of justice, and we have now brought justice to those people, the tenants, by giving them the unit free, except for legal costs, and persons who can qualify, who can now even pay the legal fees and can pay their rent up to a particular time, would now have access to the units. So I just want to make that clear, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, and not only that, the question of giving title to the tenants was another bugbear, and we came to Parliament and passed the necessary legislation so that we can get around the extensions. Not get around, but we can, of course, have a certificate of compliance, notwithstanding the extensions to the units. Further, Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe that this government is on the right path. Yes, we have our challenges, Mr. Speaker, sir, and we have to grapple through those challenges. It was not like 14 years ago, where all the milk and honey existed, the member for St. George North said that they have a proud track record. The proud track record, of course, we can speak to Barak, we can speak to all of those cost overruns in those projects. And the president, if he wants to say about proud track record, then I believe that he was speaking proudly to their track record, not saying that they have a proud track record. Certainly, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have responsibility for transport and works, public infrastructure. And, you know, the challenges that we have in public transport, I can refer members of this House to a report that was done sometime in 1985, and a public transport study was conducted by Colin Buchanan, partners in association with David Lashley and partners in corporation, sir. But the public was asked the question, Mr. Speaker, sir, what do they think, this was 1985, what do they think about public transport in Barbados? And they said that there was widespread public dissatisfaction with the service, and that the service was characterized by unreliability and, of course, inefficiency. It also made a number of recommendations to improve the quality of service. Number of recommendations to improve the quality of service. Mr. Speaker, sir, the fact is, or the stark reality is, Mr. Speaker, sir, the stark reality is that what exists at transport, when we look, we have 250 buses available, in fact, rolling stock. But you know, Mr. Speaker, when we look at the age of those buses, 77 of those buses are 21 years old, 101, 18 years, 29 buses at 14 years, and 65 buses at 12 years old. So, we haven't purchased buses since 2006, Mr. Speaker. And my information, and my certain information is, Mr. Speaker, sir, that even when the buses were purchased in 2006, that by within the next 2 weeks, they had tremendous difficulties with the buses. They had breakdowns, and they had a number of issues with them. But I don't want to go into that because I don't want to cast any slur on the supplier or cast any aspersions on any persons who were involved in the tendering or sale of those buses. But indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, these challenges that we have, we confronted them, Mr. Speaker, sir. And that is why, when we look at the model of public transport, in fact, established in 1955, coming out, sir, Mr. Speaker, of what existed before, and that the government of the day decided to nationalize public transport and came on board to effect an efficient service of public transport. Mr. Speaker, sir, what happened in 2014 when we developed the taxi project, that is the integration project, on 2 routes, Mr. Speaker, as a pilot project, one in Sturgis and one in Edie Village. Mr. Speaker, sir, the aim of that, basically, as a pilot project, was to see how we can integrate the public service vehicles as part of the public transport policy. And having the basic framework and ensure that it's properly monitored and to ensure that there's a relationship between the existing transport board and the public service vehicles. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, Martins Bay was supposed to be part of the pilot project. But coming out of a town hall meeting, there was a question, of course, of the infrastructure along the route, and I believe that we are seeking to solve that so that we can even look now to expand the project further. But, you know, after this project was implemented, Mr. Speaker, one, all of those persons involved in, or the operators involved in the taxi project, had to be trained. We placed monitors on the buses, so that what came out, basically, was a scheduled service for public transport involving the private sector. So the basic objective, Mr. Speaker, firstly, was to introduce a scheduled service on the selected routes and to improve the service delivery of public transportation on selected routes. Speaker, sir, the difference between the private sector operating in public transport is that there's no scheduled service, but of course, in public transport, there's a scheduled service. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, the private operators operating out of the terminal, they work to 6 p.m. because of a number of considerations. One, because of their workplace, very substandard. Secondly, security issue over there. So when at 6:30 or 7 o'clock, the private sector shuts down, whereas the public service vehicles have to continue along their route, regardless of whether there's a security problem or not. But the question then comes about the durability, because an operator, he has the freedom in the private sector, not operating to a scheduled service, put down his bus at 3 o'clock, put it down at 4 o'clock, and come back out at peak hour time. So they selectively operate at peak hour time. So the objective, Mr. Speaker, to integrate the private sector, and indeed, I must say, sir, that the associations responsible for them, sir, they have been very cooperative with the ministry. They're willing and they're ready to come forward and assist in the shortage that we have. And I want to say that the Ministry of Education, we are seeking to have discussions very shortly, because the member for St. Thomas, I get calls from her daily with respect to the moving of school children. But you know, Mr. Speaker, sir, although these private operators willingly came forward, you know what they said. They said that our concerns, we are willing to do it, but our concern is that the violence on the school buses, and that in terms of their property, the protection of their property from criminal damage or any form of damage. So Mr. Speaker, sir, there are two approaches that we took. Because having the integrated project would impact positively on the transport board in terms of its expenses, and particularly the maintenance. Because what it will allow the transport board to do, to concentrate solely on particular routes, or even concentrate on moving the school children, and then at peak hours where there's a challenge, that we integrate the private sector into moving the passengers at peak hours. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is no legal challenge for a private sector operator to operate from a terminal. In fact, under the Omnibus Terminals Act, they can go in and operate from those terminals. So Mr. Speaker, sir, the approach is, yes, we have a challenge. In the interim, Mr. Speaker, based on the importance of public transport and having to develop and looking to develop a public transport policy, Mr. Speaker, sir, it now moves the ministry to engage those persons again and expand the project, Mr. Speaker, sir, into not only to the Fairson Street terminal, but the Princess Alice terminal and all other terminals that are involved in public transport, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, coming out, Mr. Speaker, sir, of the project that we launched, there were some very positive outcomes. We had challenges, sir, Mr. Speaker, sir, on the Sturgis route. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to create the framework where we give or empower, because we cannot place that burden on the traffic department of the police force, because they are already challenged. But we need to have a personnel, no, Mr. Speaker, in order that once we integrate, that once that person is given a route to assist the transport board, that particular vehicle reach the route that is permitted to travel, Mr. Speaker. In the days earlier, in our time, I recall we had some, I don't call it officers, but used to nickname them spies. They used to follow the transport board to ensure that it reached the permitted route. And then they call them inspectors, sorry. We call them inspectors. That they reach the permitted route. So with a project like this, Mr. Speaker, it's only last week, Mr. Speaker, that Cabinet agreed to the expansion of this project to alleviate the problems that we are now having at the Transport Board, because what we are seeking to do now too is to ensure that we get the necessary parts and that the other buses that we have come back on stream. And not only that, Mr. Speaker, sir, the challenge that we have to is that even with the inspection of the buses, a hoist that is 40 years old at MTW, we gather all the parts, fix it, and again, within the next 2 weeks, Mr. Speaker, sir, there's another challenge there, sir. And we've instructed the workshop to look at purchasing a new hoist so that inspections don't delay, not only for Transport Board, but also for the public too, persons who have their private vehicles to be inspected. But Mr. Speaker, sir, you know, before, Transport Board used to inspect their own buses. We utilize private garage at Simpson Waters, but they too have scheduled inspections, so we have to fit into their schedule. But I'd like to thank the private sector for assisting us too with the inspections to get the buses out to the traveling public. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we hope with this project that we have a scheduled service, and that coming out of the pilot project, Mr. Speaker, sir, was that we had an improved service delivery, particularly on the ED Village Road. The member for Christchurch East Central can attest to that. As a result of what came out of the town hall meeting, they were extremely happy, given the fact that we trained them, given the fact that we had the buy-in from those from the residents, and what we are saying, Mr. Speaker, that there is a role now for the private sector to play in public transport alongside the Transport Board, Mr. Speaker. That's really saying. Simple as that. As simple as that. Mr. Speaker, sir, I certainly believe that with the expansion and of this integrated project, that we have to engage the use of technology. I want to congratulate the associations because they have started their own initiative in the use of technology so that they can stamp out some of the recklessness, some of and the fact that they don't go along the permitted route, and they work hand in hand with us But I want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that further requests have been made from residents along other routes and other parishes for us to utilize the same taxi project, and every project will have a challenge, Mr. Speaker, sir. Every project will have a challenge. We have the challenges in the Sturgis route. And the member for St. Thomas vigorously and aggressively made calls and made representations with respect to the operator on that route. So I just want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we are pushing ahead with the integrated approach. And the fact of that, Mr. Speaker, sir, that coming out of this is the fact that although there might be congestion on the first part in relation to having those buses within the Fair Street terminal, that we expect that there will be full cooperation from the stakeholders and full cooperation from the transport board officials. Because, of course, once it's expanded, we have to speak to the union officials to ensure that we have full cooperation. But there are also additional space in the area outside of the terminal that Cabinet have agreed to allow private operators to come within close vicinity of the Fair Street terminal because of the fear of passengers walking over to River Terminal and the risk. So I have been reliably informed that the technical persons from the ministry, that they're were on the job yesterday seeking to have that area rectified, putting the necessary infrastructure in place. It would take about 2 or 3 weeks, but additional roads could be nearby to the Fair Street terminal because we want to move persons to work, we want to move them to home, we want to move the people to the schools, and public transport is about moving people to their jobs, to their homes, to their schools, and whatever business they want to carry out in their daily life. And not only that, Mr. Speaker, it also creates an opportunity. In fact, only recently, UCAP, they have actually expressed an interest in even purchasing buses to move passengers and also to move school children. Now, they have the infrastructure in place. They can repair their own buses. They can buy their own parts, hopefully. And they're being a service provider contracted to the government for years. So I believe it is worthwhile looking at. Because the state cannot do it alone. State cannot do it alone with respect to public transport. And Mr. Speaker, sir, with the ages of these buses, as I said before, ranging from 1997, 2004, 2006, 2000, there will be challenges with respect to repairs. So I just wanted to put that on the table, Mr. Speaker, sir, in relation to what we are seeking to do with public transport. Further, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Minister of Finance, in his presentation on Monday, did mention the CAF road program, of course, the IDB program, and the CDB program. And I want to say to this House that in relation to the CAF program, that is the $7 million that was funded for the mill and pave, also for road construction, that those programs, they have started. The issue, Mr. Speaker, sir, of course, is the preparation of the contracts. It takes some time. And with the rains that we had, sir, and coming on into December, contracting firms normally take certainly sometimes a whole month off to get back up to work into January. And so those roads have started. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I just want to say, that we have looked at other forms or other materials used in road construction. And we look at the construction of concrete roads in some parts of St. Lucie, of course in some other areas in St. Michael, because we believe that we should look at all other options, not only asphalt, look at all other aspects of road construction. Certainly, Mr. Speaker, sir, our legislative program, we've passed the Road Traffic Act. Certainly there will have to be a robust PR campaign in relation to the Road Traffic Act, sir, because we have introduced new provisions within the Act. And that some time ago, Mr. Speaker, sir, we've launched a program that is now being aired over national television and national radio, and it is about creating an awareness among the populace in relation to a road safety campaign. Road safety campaign, Mr. Speaker, because the essence of the Road Traffic Act, basically, was part of a road safety program, particularly the area of drunk driving, the area of the breathalyzer provision. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, now, I want to congratulate the private sector because they've actually came to the ministry and said, look, particularly insurance companies, and they said that we can assist in providing the information, but of course, we have to work with other stakeholders too, particularly the Royal Barbados Police Force, and we also engage the Ministry of Health, and that the equipment can be purchased at a price that will, in fact, the technology changes nearly every day. And the device that we looked at only recently, I was surprised, Mr. Speaker, sir, that if it's not a price that really would knock you out. But the question is that we have to now train the personnel, train the police officers in relation to the breathalyzer provision, Mr. Speaker, sir.
All right, member, please wind up.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to say that given the measures that we are adopting, given the fact that we have a program in place, given the fact, Mr. Speaker, too, that only recently we have received the legislation relating to the Building Code and the Building Standards Authority Act, that we hope, sir, to have some further discussions on it, because it will impact, sir, on the construction industry. So we have to engage our stakeholders in that piece of legislation, and we hope to go up to the public, have another discussion on it, consultation on it, in relation to the Building Standards Authority Act, and particularly, sir, the Building Code, particularly the Building Code, Mr. Speaker, sir. So again, Mr. Speaker, sir, I know that you said you asked me to wrap it, but again, I want to congratulate the Minister of Finance, the personnel in my ministry for their work that they have carried out, and of course, we are looking to move forward, sir, as I said, with the expansion of the taxi project to ensure that we have some reliability, particularly to the public transport system in Barbados. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.